I hope this is a video that's finding you well. We're gonna talk about the October astrology, and I gotta say before I get started, I gotta put it out there. If anything in my countenance seems down, it's because I did lose my dog recently, and I put some videos out about him, but I haven't formally made the announcement yet that I lost my dog. So there's a bit of heaviness in me still as I'm working through that. And the only reason I bring that up is because, you know, these are like real life issues for creators. And if we don't say stuff, then people will put down in the comments down below, like, oh, why are you so depressing? And oh, why are you a negative Nancy? And, you know, all of this. And it's because people don't understand, like, we content creators, you know, we deal with life and the show must go on, you know. So yeah, if you're picking up on that, it's real, but you know, we're gonna get through it just like everything else. I told y'all last month when I did the astrology for last month, I told y'all issues with pets, health, work would likely come up for many of us collectively. And you know, I shared with you that I was dealing with issues with my dog and health, and so here we are in October and looking at, well, where do we go from here? In this video, I'm going to give you a general overview for the month because some of you just want to get it and go. And we'll talk about, you know, what you can expect out of this month in terms of love and relationships, career and money, the world at large. And I'm even going to revisit some predictions that I made last month and how they panned out just briefly, because I don't want to spend too much time on last month. If you didn't see last month's video, I'll have it at the end, you know, and that might help give some perspective. But if I bring up the astrology of last month, it's just to help get perspective. It in some way spills over to this month, and it helps us have a context for what's going on this month. But yeah, after I talk about, you know, what we can expect, I'll get into some important dates for those of you who've got the attention span, and then at the very end, a little bit of a spiritual homework assignment for the month ahead to hopefully make the most out of the energies. And as always, you guys know the drill here on YouTube. If you like what you're seeing, please give me a thumbs up. Like it, share it, subscribe, comment, definitely. All these things help me to reach more people. And I know, you know, y'all are tired of hearing this ad nauseum. I'm tired of saying it ad nauseum, but you know, it's the game. It's the game of YouTube. So, all right, let's move on. Let's talk about an overview, just very briefly in a nutshell, for October, the astrology. Well, we're coming into this month having been in stuck city with how many planets retrograde, and we're finally, thank God, moving away from all of that. And you know, last month there was a lot of Virgo Pisces energy that had us focusing on the way it is versus the way we want it to be. And the energy this month, particularly the lunar energy this month, is shifting the focus towards self versus other. A lot of Aries versus Libra energy, right? Because we're having a full moon in Aries and a new moon in Libra. So lot of getting into relational energy going on, and then forward movement as well. We're getting out of that stuck city type of all the retrograde energy of last month and finally shifting out of it with 4 planets going direct this month: Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury. Praise God, hallelujah, right? Because I mean, it's been, and you know, we typically go through this, you know, all these retrogrades every summer, but you know, by the end of it, you're just kind of like, you know, 9 months into a pregnancy, you're like, get this baby out of me, let's go. You know, And I think we are ready to birth something totally new than whatever has been the experience of the last 4 to 5 months, okay? And so there's not only, you know, a shifted focus towards self and others, relationships, and movement forward with the planets going direct, but this is all gearing up to this crescendo coming in November, December as we get into eclipse season with the holy shifts. And I know some of you are just like, bring it, bring it. Oh, I don't care what kind of a throwdown it is. I need change, damn it. I got to break the shackles off. Yeah, I almost said the cycles off. Just break the cycles off and the shackles. Are the cycles like shackles? Anyway, that was, who knows where that came from. All right, let's move on to what to expect, okay? With love and relationships, and I apologize, I'm sniffling so much because I love to be out here in nature. I know you guys love it too, but there's something that gets to me out here, but I just plow through anywhere. I'm like, I don't care. I guess I'm just going to sniffle my way through it because I love it so much, being out in nature. It's healing, you know? But anyway, let's talk about love and relationships for October. What can we expect? This, I think, is going to be a good month to look at mutually empowering unions. And you know what? I kind of talked about that in the video for last month's astrology. But I think that it's going to become even more and more apparent and obvious than in September. The need to form alliances with people, whether it's personally or professionally, and we're starting to realize our power in numbers, that we have more power, you know? This is also going to be a month where maybe issues come up where it's being brought to your awareness that you've got to balance your personal needs with the personal needs of others. And a good month to practice or learn to better practice this skill of negotiations, learning how to negotiate not only for your best interest, but also the best interest of others. And you know, I'm just going to tell you, I have wanted to release a video. I might just do it in October, where I'm going to talk about this because I've, for quite some time, have been left with an impression that Jordan Peterson put on me about how many of us are just god-awful poor negotiators in relationships, and it has a lot to do with why we end up in relationships resentful, bitter, dissatisfied, not getting our needs met. The other person feels like they're not getting their needs met because we're just bad negotiators and we're not taught. You know, a lot of us are either taught to just be out for ourselves and every man for himself, and that doesn't end well, right? Or we're taught the opposite of extreme, that we give ourselves away with the hope that the other person will return the favor, and that never ends very well. So, right, this skill of negotiating is something I think that, you know, as part of my self-help work here on this channel, I'm probably going to, hopefully, fingers crossed, God willing, release a video on that in the month of October. I think it's very timely given the energy, all this, you know, Aries, Libra energy going on. So on the love front, with Venus moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius on the 7th, it's going to be less intense energy. And I'm just realizing I didn't even plug this in. I hope that worked. Okay. Less intense energy. I don't want y'all to hear that wind that's coming and going, and I forgot to plug it in earlier. My apologies. Less intense energy and more of a lighthearted, loving type of energy after the 7th. So the first week of this month, maybe, you know, some kind of heavier feelings, right? Like with the loss of my dog, and that's just my dog. Some of you are in full-blown romantic relationships, right? But just with the loss of my dog, feeling that a lot of intensity about, man, I really, really, really miss him, but I think that if there's any kind of depth or heaviness to, right, like Scorpio is very possessive, like, and especially if you have this kind of love nature, where you can't possess, you're having to detach from something because, right, some of you may be dealing with breakups. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. With Mercury retrograde, maybe looking at these intense feelings of attachment towards somebody that you're having to let go of for whatever reason. It could be a number of things, okay? If that has been a burden on you, the good news is I think from the 7th onward, the heaviness is going to lift. You're going to still feel loving towards that person and maybe miss that person or want to be with that person, but it's not going to have, like, I don't know why I'm hearing like a chokehold on you. It sounds quite extreme, okay? But then again, Scorpio is, right? We love Scorpios. We do. I love their intensity. Anyway. And by the way, we're getting into Scorpio season, so happy birthday, Scorpios. I just got to put it out there. I'm not throwing any shade at y'all. I love y'all. You know, like, I could go on a tangent about that, but we'll move on, all right? Okay, and then also finally, this month with love and relationships, generally speaking, I do think there could be some powerful urges to partner with somebody. Yes, romantically, or it could just simply be to collaborate with others, and you know that could take on a less romantic tone, where maybe you're wanting to, you know, share resources, house sharing, or you know, or I don't know, getting involved in co-ops is coming to me, you know, networking. All manner of things. I'll probably go into more detail about that when we get into the important dates in just a bit. Let me move on real quick to the career and money. Generally speaking, I think that this is going to be a month of forming new and different alliances that are going to bring significant change in your life, okay? And yes, possibly on the work front. Definitely on the 6th of this month with that new moon in Libra, and then, you know, quincunx Uranus, that is going to bring some kind of, maybe something totally out of left field, you never saw it coming, or it's something you've never done before, it's totally new, but you come up with some new way of how you're relating to others or who you're partnering and collaborating with. And yeah, it could be on the work front. Consider also this point forward into the next 2 years, like a 2-year trajectory. And I'm going to talk to you about why when we get into the important dates, but there's a major astrological event happening on the 6th with the Sun and Mars conjunct, and Mars is coming around to, it's, you know, cycling around to the Sun, which occurs every 22 months. So major stuff happening with a stellium and Libra. You know, I'm going to go into more detail in the important dates, okay? But just trust me that from the 6th out for the next 22 months, roughly 2 years, we're looking at forming new, different alliances on the work front. And I think that this is a month that people are very likely, if at all, to take a leap of faith and set out on a new, bold adventure with their job, their career, their money. Yes, we're hearing about, you know, people putting in their resignations. I'll talk about that in a bit, you know, where there's a lot of people leaving workplaces, and even if it's not over the mandates, right, like my daughter, she's getting ready to leave her job for another job that is closer to her house, less gas, more favorable hours, and is serving a higher level clientele that is going to basically bring home higher tips for less work. less working hours. So, you know, and she's doing this after being at a place for like 3 years. So getting out of a comfort zone, taking a leap of faith and saying, you know what, I'm ready for something different. I'm ready for something new. I'm ready to be able to have more freedom with my life, whether this is, you know, over restrictions that you're trying to break free of with the government or with corporations, or this is just maybe financial limitations that you've dealt with this entire summer. So I am going to predict that on the career and money front this month, many people are going to venture more towards learning not just how to work from home with technology, but also learning how to work mobile. And this is a trend I myself have seen because of so much change going on with workplaces and housing that will surely continue well into 2022 through 2023. We are going to be seeing, and I'll talk more about that in a moment, but because of all the movement and shifting with where people live and where people work, having the ability to work mobile is going to become more important over the next 2 years. And that's something I'm doing. Like, I've shared with y'all that I've somewhat disconnected with my online work, though. Yeah, I'm still here and I still use this, but it's complementary. My online work is complementary to what I'm doing online, face to face in my local community, where I've been, you know, going to local cafes and doing, you know, art festivals and things like that. And I'm meeting with people in almost a traditional sense, but where I can be mobile and I don't have a brick and mortar. I don't have employees. I can just pack my stuff up and go and do my work and meet all kinds of people. I can take it with me wherever I go. If I want to travel around and pop up my event tent somewhere or set up a table at a cafe with a manager's permission, like, I'm learning to do this, and this is something that I've never before. This is totally radical Uranus. I told you, okay, so more and more people are going to learn to do this. And, you know, that's just an example of working mobile. It's not just my idea. I'm hearing whispers of this already going on out there in the economic community, that this is becoming more and more of a trend, and I think we're going to see it unfold over the next 2 years. But also working kind of in a hive, all right, where you have multiple connections, right? So like if I'm working one event but that fizzles out, I've got other events. Or I'm working within one network and for some reason that network fizzles out, I've got these other networks over here that I can plug into. And we're all kind of cross-pollinating each other. We're all helping each other. These are multiple connections and working, plugging in and unplugging as needed on an as needed basis. Not this old way of plugging in and staying plugged into the same 9 to 5, you know, for 2 years at the same job, doing the same, all that. Okay, very different working style, all right? Now, the world at large, okay, I want to kind of remind you that last month I made predictions that, well, I warned about things going on globally that might be disturbing. I warned you guys, you know, to watch what you're seeing in the media, particularly alternative social media, that we could, you know, get online one day and you just get scrolling through and you see some disturbing images that you wish you had not seen. And sure enough, it happened this month. I saw headlines about the Taliban in Afghanistan hanging dead bodies throughout the town, through Afghanistan. I did not click on the headlines, so I can't speak in any length about it, and I think most of my viewers really would rather I not. It's gruesome, is it not? You know, it's awful, but you know, and also headlines and rumors about beheadings going on, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't click on that stuff because there's enough ugliness in the world. Why do I need to, like, yeah. And news headlines also of a family that included 7 children being bombed by the Biden administration, and then watching Jen Psaki, the press secretary for Biden, just completely glossing it over, making light of it, like as a casualty of war, big deal, you know, this type of thing. So very disgusting stuff, and I'm sorry to say I think it will continue. You know, even just watching images, video footage of the Australians being fired at by the police, yes, with rubber bullets, but nonetheless still very disturbing to see what humanity has come to. That you're actually dealing with quite a large percentage of the population that is totally okay with their fellow citizens being fired upon with rubber bullets for the heinous crime of having a difference of opinion or a difference of a healthcare choice. Like, we never even did this. We haven't even done this to people over abortion. Okay? But now, because people don't want to be vaccinated or are subjected to mandates, now this is an okay in the eyes of certain people to fire bullets upon. It's like, my God, what has become? And unfortunately, these kind of disturbing images I don't think are going away anytime soon. I think there will be an acceleration as we get further into closing out this year. Now, you know, this month in a nutshell, I want to say that I think that there's going to be further pushback. I should say the authorities pushing back on the citizens. The pushback is coming from, right, the government, these big businesses, these corporations, these workplace mandates. And then what we're seeing in response is humanity pushing back. And so, you know, the Great Resignation continues. I talked about the Great Resignation in the last video. And yes, just as I predicted, we've already had, you know, in September, police resignations on the rise. I'm seeing headlines coming out of Missouri, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, New Mexico, and then heard about 72,000 hospital workers are going to be fired in New York over the mandate. And this is just in the hospitals. This is not including the people who work in, you know, hospices, clinics, you know, other types of medical facilities. Just in hospitals alone, 72,000 medical workers fired in New York. And so, right, the authorities are pushing, humanity's pushing back even harder. And then what's happening in response is you have, like, for example, with this New York situation, Governor Kathy Hochul, who replaced Cuomo, by the way, she was a shoo-in just to continue his bullshit, okay? Nothing has changed. Different name, same agenda, okay? But anyway, she's declared now a national emergency because she's not taking the pushback as her constituents saying, we do not consent to this type of governance. What she's doing is she's pushing her authority even harder. Take a note of this. This is not just one individual. This is, in my opinion, an attitude, a spirit, an energy that I think we will be seeing more of, where rather than respond to the feedback, the feedback of her constituents and say, you know what, actually, I don't think we should do this. I'm going to upset my constituents. Not everybody is really on board with this. Oh no, she's pushing back even harder with further arrogance, saying that she wants to import foreigners to replace domestic workers who won't comply with the mandate. She's saying that she's now going to replace the workers with National Guard troops. So the hospitals are becoming militarized. Oh my gosh. And I'm going to say, like, if you are one of these people who in September or October is leaving or has left your work, don't think it over. Come up with something constructive, like I said earlier, with all the energy coming up with Mars and the Sun and all this Libra energy, and looking at who can you align with. If you can no longer align with that employer, go to job boards like on Gab, where they are not going to enforce this stuff. You know, these employers who, excuse me, I'm having to fix this. Employers who are not going along with the mask mandates. I'm gonna have to buy another one because this thing keeps sagging no matter what I do. Or here, has another idea, is form your own group, form your own alliance of at-home workers, right? Like, just for example, I needed at-home care for my dog before he passed, end-of-life care, because he was paralyzed in his hind legs, and he's a large breed, and I couldn't pick him up and lift him, so I was calling around everywhere to these traditional clinics asking and willing to pay a convenience fee and mileage for somebody to do at-home visits. And some of these people are just, you know, oh, but COVID. I'm just like, my God, do you want to make money or not? Nobody in my family has COVID or has ever had it. You know, just here, I'll pay you extra money. Understand that as these vacancies are being created, opportunities are coming up, because there are people like me who don't give a rat's behind about, we know what this is all about, and we've got money, and we will pay you to do at-home care. So I'm going to tell you, again, in the medical industry, my God, think of how, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, can you shift your job career into something radical, something that is beyond work from home? It's mobile. I'm tying it back into stuff earlier. Just think about it. And the same with the security people, like police departments, because, well, we're seeing a lot of vacancies with that too. You know, with those police resignations on the rise, we're seeing a lot of those vacancies. So for some of you, if you work for police departments that are requiring the vaccination and you don't want to be a part of it, think about offering private security services or something like that. I mean, or just like I said, going to work for a company that is not complying. And those people, by the way, are listed on gab.com in case you're interested. Ooh, the wind. I hope y'all can hear me past it. But yeah, getting back to this whole thing about the Great Resignation and the way the authoritarianism is just like, they're knuckling down even harder rather than humbling themselves and, you know, taking correction from their constituents. The arrogance just continues to rise, like with that situation with Governor Kathy Hochul out of New York, who replaced Cuomo. She is even been going to churches and preaching from pulpits at churches, you know, that that the vaccines are from God, and that and at the same time is refusing people exemptions from vaccine mandates for religious reasons. And so I told you guys last month, be careful with the Libra energy, that people are sounding very sweet and diplomatic and, oh, but it's from God, and, oh, but you can't have a religious exemption because I know what's best for you. I'm just trying to take care of you and do what's right. I mean, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, God gave it to us, and who are you to question that? You know, it's really getting perverse, okay? It's very sick. It's getting beyond intellectual arrogance and into spiritual arrogance. And to me, you know, when we're dealing with moral busybodies, it's the worst. I don't know if any of you have ever read C.S. Lewis, but he talks about this. I think it's in his classic Screw Tapes letters. The moral busybodies are the worst. They do the worst damage because they believe themselves right in the sight of God. And for that reason, you cannot stop them. You cannot talk them out of what they're doing. These are the most dangerous people, are the moral busybodies. And I'm sorry to say, but we are shockingly hearing people in government now supposing themselves to be intellectually and morally superior to the people who elected them. So there's a need, I think, obviously, with all this pushing and getting pushed back and pushing back even harder. Obviously, they're trying to maintain control. And they're losing control because the reality is, what they don't want you to know is that there's just too many of us. They can't fine us all. They can't make everybody comply. Their most powerful weapon is psychological warfare, convincing you that you have no other choice, convincing you that if you don't do this, you will not be able to pay your bills. And it's a big lie because, like I said in the last month's video, black market economies are emerging. Groups of people are separating themselves and saying, we're employers, we're not complying. You want to come work for us? So anyway, I don't know, the arrogance and the refusal of correction from the authorities right now is probably adding to a building tension that I think will be quite explosive by November, December, when we have those eclipses, those holy shifts. So my prediction on, you know, the world front, the world at large, is that we're going to continue to see more artificial diplomacy, being very surfacey, which I'm sorry, that's a shadow aspect of Libra. When with all this Libra energy, well, here you go. Another thing that's very surfacey, and it looks good on the surface, but it's just crap if you really know the truth of it and you dive deeper, is the financial markets that are being artificially propped up with fake fiat money. There's nothing of value to back it apart from our belief in it, which is crumbling. But I told you last month that we're set for an October default on our national debt in the US. And I'm hearing rumors that it's just scare tactics to get the population to go along with more money printing, to basically go along with more inflation and not complain about it. Oh, well, you know, we don't want to go into default, so I guess you're just going to have to pay higher at the gas tank, or, you know, I guess, you know, we're going to have to deal with our dollars being deflated more, losing value in our buying power by printing more money. You know, people are like tolerating things that they ordinarily wouldn't because of scare tactics. Oh, we could, you know, default. Nevertheless, it's a real issue. I don't know when they're going to stop artificially propping up the market. Shockingly, I mean, they've pulled it off much longer than most financial experts would have ever predicted. So at this rate, you know, who knows? Who knows where this is going? We are also hearing rumors that in the coming months, here in the United States, we will see more of a housing collapse. And this is spillover from China's housing bubble. I don't know if you guys have heard about Evergrande, which is mainly the investments in China having to do with real estate. Well, they basically are going through what we went through in 2008 with our housing bubble. But because we're so deeply entrenched financially with China, there is going to be some ripple effect in the housing market. And so buckle up for that. And crypto, there's a lot of market manipulation going on with that. For a long time, I wouldn't get into stocks because I knew that the stock market was manipulated. And now it's becoming more and more obvious. So is crypto. These big institutional investors that are being backed or supplied or subsidized in some way by the federal government. And last month we even heard about the Federal Reserve Chair and some very high up people over there doing insider trading. Oh God, it would be illegal for us, but they get off scot-free. And so everything is a big show, everything is illusion until it isn't. And God bless you if you're left holding the bag on it. If you bought into the fakery and then it's kind of like musical chairs. They finally turn the music off and you can't find a place to sit. Okay, so I've been talking to people about this and not with the crypto. I still will say crypto over stocks any day because crypto is the future. Like it or not, they are shifting us to a digital currency. But what they're doing by going in and manipulating the markets with all these highs and lows in cryptos is they're trying to create FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, so that people don't buy into crypto. But I'm telling you, the people who just ignore that noise and propaganda and you buy low, eventually you're going to sell high because crypto is the future. And so, yeah, there's going to be more market manipulation. My advice is to ignore it. Okay, let's get into the important dates. It is so getting windy out here. Let's see if I can go through this as fast as possible. Starting the 6th, we have a new moon in Libra. And that will be, let me see where I'm at on timing. Yeah. Newman and Libra, we will be having that on the 6th, and it will be conjunct Mars, quincunx Uranus. So there's a lot of energy having to do with partnering, negotiating, balancing things out with others, or at least working on those type of skills. There's going to be more of a focus on relationships with other people. But because of how Mars is conjunct with this energy, there's going to be a lot more assertiveness in people and more empowering energies, looking at power dynamics and asserting oneself. And then on the same day, we have Pluto going direct in Capricorn. It's been retrograde, mind you, since April 27th, so 5 months of this. And that energy has had us re-examining the changes that we need to make within ourselves and society at large. Maybe ourselves within the context of society. Yes, during these last 5 months, you probably experienced feelings of hopelessness, feeling stuck. And this probably had to do with the government, big businesses, authorities. Unfortunately, Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008 and will continue to be in Capricorn until 2024. So Pluto in Capricorn is not exactly a new energy, but given the retrograde of the last 5 months, we've been having to really look at how do we make changes to overcome the stuckness in relation to people in authority. How do we break loose of that? On the 7th, Venus is going to be in Sagittarius until the 5th of November. And so this is where things start lightening up, you know, in people's love nature. And we become less focused, less intense than we were with Venus and Scorpio. And the energy gets, the love nature gets a little bit more lighter and more adventurous feeling. It is a truth-seeking energy, but again, I think the truths are not maybe as heavy or perceived that way. There's just more of a lightheartedness to it. And then on the 9th, we've got this, you know, Mars cycle that is bringing about, you know, a cycle over the next 2 years. Because, yeah, you know, Mars makes a full cycle around the sun every 22 months. So roughly the next 2 years, we're looking at this energy impacting on the 9th. As we've got the stellium of Mars, Mercury, and the Sun all in Libra. So we're looking at 3 cycles starting during that time. By the way, if you want to know more about this, Astrology just put out a video on this, and you should check it out. She does a breakdown of how it's affecting your ascendant, and so really helpful. And I tell you, you know, I quit following a lot of astrologers on YouTube because a lot of them are woke, and I'm not into that. And I don't really care who I offend. Like, the time for diplomacy is over. I'm going to say that. Sorry, Sun in Libra. Time for diplomacy is over. Done with the wokeness. Done with the woke astrologers. And so I've primarily been listening to Leo King. And then I started listening more to Astrology because she's awake, not woke. And that's what I'm going to give my attention to, is the awake people, not the woke people. Difference, big difference. Anyway, so she talks about this, the 3 cycles that are starting for us on the 9th. And, you know, Mars has been in Virgo, having us focus on work and health matters and all that. But with it shifting into Libra, the focus then in terms of how we're asserting our energy out in the world, Mars, you know, we're looking at the justice system, the law, business, commerce, trade, exchanging goods and services, things like that. And so I'm going to pass on to you some really good advice that Astrology gave, and I have to agree with it. I think it's worth passing on, that over the next 2 years, if you want to make the greatest progress, then you're going to have to collaborate with people who are like-minded. I am starting to think that it is going to rain. God, I hope not. Let me see if I can multitask here while I'm talking, because I'm thinking I need to go to my car to finish this, because I hope it doesn't rain. And I really just feel like I am dealing with a lot of, like, with this thing wanting to fall. I have to keep readjusting it. It's annoying. All right, so, all right, on the 10th, we have Saturn Direct in Aquarius as well. And that's after having been retrograde since May 23rd, 4 months. Oh yeah, you hear it? You hear the thunder? Lovely. Let me see if I can pause this. to get back to my car and continue filming there. Can't figure it out. God help me. That's a hoot. All right, let's walk. Oh, this is an energy, huh? This is such an energy. Okay. I don't know. You're going to have to wing it. All right, look. This is for somebody watching. I really think this could be an energy in October. You're going to have to wing it because something unexpected might come up. And you're going to be like, what the hell? I don't want to get rained on here with my laptop. So, whatever, we're going to make it. I'm not going to get rained on. I did leave some stuff over there, but it's okay to get rained on over there. So, all right, let's see. Saturn Direct has really been putting us towards making us think about what needs to be fixed in our lives. Where have you been getting restriction? Where have you been? I'm going to get it together, people. I really am. I'm getting it together. What needs fixing? What needs readjusting? Okay. How do you get yourself out of the rain of your life? Yeah. Yes, I'm waxing philosophical now. And you know, what do you need to improve in your life? That's Saturn. Saturn, having been retrograde, is putting those issues in your face. Like, are there things that processes or policies or procedures, and I know this sounds very work the way I'm saying, but it might very much be like hitting on the work front over the last, we know with all the mandates, policies and procedures and that are being reevaluated. But essentially, things are being restructured, okay? Like as other people are restructuring their businesses, the way that they do business, how is that impacting you in the way that you need to restructure your life and the way that you do business? And I think during this time, the most constructive use of it has been for us to look at society's rules. Where do you fit in it? I mean, the last 5 months, seriously, with all the mandates and threats of mandates and talks of mandates, you know, and even watching society's strangeness with, are we putting the masks on or are we not putting the mask on? Are we afraid of Delta or are we not afraid of Delta? You know, that's been amusing to watch that. I'm just going to say over the last 5 months. All right. But looking at where do I fit in with all of this? Where do I fit in with society's rules and where are society's rules limiting me? And how can I break free of limitations that are actually holding me back? They're not protecting me. They're not helping me. They're not adding safety and security to my life. They're caging me. They're locking me up, you know. So, you know, the last 4 months has been a time of looking at how you can empower yourself with sheer willpower, effort, self-discipline. All these things are very Capricornian, by the way, but yeah, 10th house. But in Aquarius, which by the way, Saturn has been in Aquarius since, 2020 and will remain there until 2023. This is all about us during this time frame, these 3 years of challenging society's rules and even our own. Like, maybe in the past I would have gone along with this, but now I know too much. Aquarius, I know that you're lying to me. I know that you're power tripping. I know that you use money to fund that over there. I know that this is, don't get me started, because then I'll get taken down. I'll get canceled. All right. So now you're like, I know XYZ, therefore I'm not going along with this. All right, let's move on to the 18th, where Jupiter goes direct in Aquarius. And it's been retrograde since June 20th in Pisces, when it first went retrograde, and then it went retrograde into Aquarius on the 28th of July. So all this energy of Jupiter being retrograde since June, think about what's been going on since then for you. Where have you and others gone too far in your urge to expand or to grow? How have you set healthy limits or not? Do you really want what you think you want? Or were you settling? Or were you misdirected in some way? Okay, like for example, I will say since June, I got so frustrated with the stuck energy that I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to do something different. I'm going to have to, in terms of housing, like I wanted to get moved and I've been so stuck. I've been at the same place for 3 years that I was only intending to be for 6 months, and it's just been absolute misery. And then with COVID, it just locked me in even further. And so this summer got to a point with that stuck feeling of all the retrogrades. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to do something different. Even if I have to make like a lateral move and just move like 5 minutes down the road, sweet Jesus, I'm going to do it, and I got on a bunch of waiting lists, and I was trying to be responsive. People around me were saying, just get on waiting lists. And so that's what I did. But even in the moment I did that, I thought within myself, this is not really what I want to do. I knew it at the time, but I'm like, well, this is what I think I have to do. I don't think I can do anything better, so it's settling, right? And as we're coming out of this retrograde, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't even want to be here. I just don't want to do this. I don't actually want to live there. If I have to live in this town, yeah, I'd like to live there, but I don't even want to be anywhere in and I'm just like, let me get totally honest with myself. Like, I don't really want that. If I'm really honest with myself about what I want, and then, you know what? It brings me back to, wait a minute, is there a different way? Is there a different way I can expand into that? Because I couldn't see a way to expand into it during retrograde, so I thought, well, I have to expand elsewhere. But maybe now as we come out all these retrogrades, you get back to what you really want to expand into, and looking at how maybe all of a sudden things start coming online, opportunities come online for you to expand in that way. All right. The other issue as well with Jupiter being retrograde since June and us coming out of it is that if since June you spent a lot of money, because it could bring a lot of excessive, wasteful spending, accumulating debt during this time, that, what's the saying, that chickens could come home to roost. And it might not be that you were wasteful or extravagant or excessive or indulgent, but shit happened that you had to pay for. Like, I had expenses come up that were unexpected, and frankly, if I, didn't have the financing to, to handle it, then I I would have been SOL. I would have been in a bad way. But now I got to figure out how to pay those debts off. So now's the perfect time for me to make a shameless plug. If you want a private reading, you know where to find me. I got bills to pay. Yeah, I got bills to pay. So, but yeah, I mean, this is maybe as you're coming out of the retrograde from Jupiter on the 18th, and even you might even be feeling it already, you're having to look at how can you make adjustments to your spending, to your debt. How can you limit the damage of things that, you know, you took on expenses that maybe you had no choice during that time, and now you got to dig yourself out of it. How can you redirect your resources more positively during this time so that you can balance out any kind of extremes that you gave into? You know, in Aquarius, till December 28th, which is where Jupiter will be, well, I mean, this could bring about over the next few months of, you know, you feeling like you don't fit in, and yet at the same time that the positive, the contrast there is it pushes you to find your tribe, to figure out where you do fit in. And even if all else fails and you remain feeling like an outsider, or you choose to be a loner, totally Aquarian thing to do, well, you get to a place where you're okay with it, you embrace it, you're all right. I do feel overall there's an energy, whether we're talking about on a personal level or interpersonal level or transpersonal level, where people with Jupiter and Aquarius are starting to find themselves as individuals and their own uniqueness, and really embracing their individuality and that of others, no matter how different it is, so that we can coexist better with one another. And that's, excuse me, that's a positive. All right, Mercury also on the 18th is going direct in Libra. It's been retrograde since September 27th. And so, yes, that will be basically a month of, no, I'm not going to say a month, about 2 weeks of us maybe having, in the first 2 weeks of October, having to confront issues that maybe we forgot conveniently or we glossed over, having to correct things that maybe were done incorrectly the first time around. And that retrograde energy leading up to the 18th might have been a bit intense, where you're being forced, you're kind of, you know, you have it kind of shoved in your face and forced to face things that are difficult, having to do with an inability to really push forward in some certain respect, and maybe going back, like I said, and having to fix things that are broken or correct things that were done incorrect. Like, nobody likes that, right? Nobody likes to have to go back and do the job twice because it wasn't done right the first time. Just, you know, everybody likes to get the job done right the first time. And for some of you, I got to give you a warning that this Mercury retrograde from the 27th of September on to October 18th could bring about, I mean, you know, we talk about miscommunications and delay. I mean, that's a standard, and don't sign contracts, or if you do, read the fine print, you know. But you could also see during this time cars breaking down, having delays with travel, delivery problems with packages or miscommunicating about that. I've already experienced it. Probably, well, it was during the shadow time, you know, that I was experiencing it, where my car broke down, right? That was an unexpected expense that I had to cough up like $500 to get my car repaired. And it was serious. It was, I mean, it was so serious, my check engine light was flashing. And I Googled that, and they said, you better shut that engine off, park it, and get it towed. Don't even drive it to the mechanic because you will cause permanent damage to the engine. And so I had to pay a tow truck and then $500 in repairs to not damage my vehicle. And it just came out of nowhere. And that breaking down, along with other things going wrong, caused me to put off a trip for yet another week that I actually, I've already put it off 2 or 3 times now. I should have taken that trip like mid-September. Oh God, Mercury retrograde and shadow, you know. So just be aware that kind of stuff could be going on. And if you're like me and you get a flashing check engine light, oh my gosh, or just the check engine light, my gosh, take it seriously. It could be, you know, you never know. This is also a time where people are reviewing contracts or renegotiating them. I said that last month. But I've noticed this is, for me personally, taken on a little bit of a different tone where I've been, because of me trying to limit the damage of, financial damage of Jupiter retrograde, I started going through, you know, pruning subscriptions and charges and whatnot and saying, do I really need to pay for this every month? Am I getting a return on investment? No, I don't. And I start like ending that contract or renegotiating that contract. So this could be a time where you are, you know, you're pruning in that way. Or you have contracts coming up for renewal. And I even said to my daughter about one of them, I said, you know, if this person comes back and wants to extend the contract, we're going to rewrite it because I will not agree to those terms again. You got away with that one time, but I won't do it again. If you want me to sign again, it will be under different terms, and I'm renegotiating for more for my advantage the next time. And this energy, by the way, is lending itself towards that, of you really looking out for your best interests along with others. Maybe where in the past you didn't. You know, the contract was totally written for their advantage. Now you come back and you're like, well, I'm glad you enjoyed that. And now it's time for me to enjoy some benefits in this contract as well. Yeah. All right. On the 20th, we've got the full moon in Aries. And so, you know, look at what maybe started around the 6th with the new moon in Libra. And how is that culminating by the 20th? Really, right, reference the 6th when you're at the 20th. What happened around that point and how is it culminating? This lunar energy, as I said before, has a lot to do with self versus others, assertion versus compromise, leadership versus diplomacy. And this is occurring while the sun is aligned with Mars and square to Pluto. So be very careful about this time, feeling pressured with the full moon in Aries, emotional pressures on yourself, pressures that also might make you feel paranoid in some respect. Try to find some courage and take the appropriate action, what is appropriate for you around that full moon. Then on the 23rd, we've got the sun in Scorpio until November 21st. So this is provoking a lot of change and likely going to find success with this, you know, with this solar energy. Find a lot of success through being resourceful and repurposing and salvaging things. You notice it's raining. I'm glad I got out when I did. I still got to go run back out there and get some stuff I left behind. It's okay to get rained on, but not my tech stuff, right? I'm safe. I'm telling you, some of you, this is an intuitive hit. And a synchronicity. During October, you're going to have to shift gears. You might have to leave something behind and come back for it later. But you're going to have to protect your assets. You're going to have to do something. It's going to come out of left field and you don't see it coming. but you're going to have to be nimble. You're going to have to be agile and flow with what comes when it comes, as inconvenient as it might be, right? It looked kind of silly there walking because I couldn't figure out, well, how do I pause that? Anyway. Yeah. I'd say the last week of October into November, be resourceful, salvage things, repurpose things. You're going to get the most success out of doing that. It's going to be a really good time for you to get into investigating things, researching things, especially if it's for the purpose of transforming something, fixing something, healing something. Really good energy for that. Then finally on the 30th, Mars is going to be in Scorpio until the 31st. And this is going to really make people very driven and very single-minded in their pursuits. And probably also desiring more emotional depth. So if there have been any repressed issues, be aware around the very end of the month that those could come up. Those could rise to the surface for you to work through. And other people as well. I mean, other people could be, maybe in the past they would have avoided, they would have skirted around, they would have sidestepped. But with this energy, Mars and Scorpio, they're less prone to avoiding important issues, okay? A lot more inclined also to take on intense emotions, not so intimidated by them. People during this time would rather have intense emotional experiences than mediocre, dull ones, lackluster. You know, they would rather it that way. So I do feel the tone getting more and more serious as we get to the end of the month. Power issues coming into play. But look, I'm going to leave you with this homework assignment for the month ahead. Hopefully so you can make the most of it, all right? Look at the major shifts that are coming up for you with the eclipses of November and December. What houses are being impacted? You know, for me, the lunar eclipse on November 19th is hitting my first house. So that's, again, a lot about the self. And then in December, we've got a solar eclipse on the 4th of December. That's impacting my 7th house. So again, more of the self versus other dynamics, Aries versus Libra dynamics being highlighted. And so the question for you, regardless of whatever houses are being impacted, that's some homework assignment. Figure out where these eclipses are hitting on those days, what houses. But wherever the houses are hitting, you need to ask yourself, is there any action that you can take in this month of October to proactively respond to those shifts that are coming in November and December? Right? Can you position yourself better to brace those holy shifts that are coming up, or to just surrender to it and let the chips fall what they may? I mean, you got to pray about that. Do you need to fortify something, or do you need to release something? Okay, that's for each person. It's going to be different. And I'd say definitely with a solar eclipse, well, let me say with the lunar eclipse in November, that's about releasing something. And in December on the 4th, that's about embracing something. So think about what you need to release and embrace during those months. Also, look at the houses that the Sun and Mars are transiting for you on the 9th of this month, October. And consider the impact that it's having upon you over the next 2 years. Just a pro tip, if you can't get your natal chart and figure out where the transits are, usually it's your rising sign. And if you don't know all that stuff and you want somebody to help you, you can come to me for a private reading, right? I got a Jupiter retrograde to fix. Okay? And a Mercury retrograde wrecking my car to fix. Then come to me if you want a reading. Okay. But anyway, getting back to this. Consider the impact that this alignment of Mars and the Sun is going to have on the ninth and how it's going to unfold over the next 2 years. All right, what house? Do you need to disconnect from any disempowering unions? I talked about that last month. It's getting more amplified this month. You know, if the answer is yes, I do need to disconnect from disempowering unions, well, take some action on it this month, please. This is a month to take action, work on this. And then, you know, replace it with an empowering union, or consider, how can I take action to replace disempowering unions with empowering ones? Who can you ally yourself with right now? And, you know, start maybe setting up connections, networks that could pay off for you over the next 2 years. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, not just to empower yourself, but also empower others. Like, think about this. Who wants what you have to offer, right? Like with my business, I'm like, who would be interested? Who would be like, if I were to come to them to say, let's do business together, they'd be like, yes, I've been looking for someone like you. Who would that person be? Like that I'm an answer to their prayers, just as they're an answer to mine, right? We need to think about those kind of things. And I want to leave you with 2 quotes. I'm going to close out with 2 quotes. Don't wait for life-defining moments. Make them. Don't wait for life-defining moments. Make them. That's Tony Robbins. And finally, power is the ability to act. Power is the ability to act. I hope you find your power, and I hope you share your power with others who are worthy this month. And I hope you make a life-defining moment from that empowered position. All right, thanks for watching this wacky video, and hopefully next month will be better. Right? I don't know, it's eclipse season. We can hope and pray. That's all we got. All right, till next time, y'all be blessed.